Think you're ready to use a stronger retinoid? How do you know? And what do you do next? Now, the retinoid arena is an incredibly exciting one, but is still a cause of a lot of fear and anxiety, particularly for those who've been coasting along quite nicely on a retinoid, but think that maybe it's time for a change up. So today's video is going to address what the signs are that you might need to use something stronger and how to go about it. This is a really simple and easy to use two-step framework that I use in the clinic all the time to know when it's time to up your retinoid game. Now, what's really key is to be really clear about your goals from the outset. What are the reasons for using a retinoid in the first place? Now, they tend to fall into two camps. Over here, we have block pores, breakouts, the dark marks that follow, and over here, we typically have the more anti-aging things. So fine lines and wrinkles, dull texture, uneven skin tone from sun exposure. And in the middle, there's probably radiance. Now, it might be that you straddle all three, or just the breakouts and clogged pores and radiant side of things, or the sun damage and radiant side of things. Either way, it's important to know what you're trying to solve. That's the first thing, to set the goalposts. So you've defined your concerns, you've chosen your retinoids. Now the first step is to assess whether or not you've used it for long enough and have the benefits peaked. Now I'd usually recommend that you stick with your first retinoid for at least 2 skin cycles, or around 3 months. So a skin cycle is 6 weeks, to ensure that you have got the maximum benefit possible from that product. Now that's because it takes time to switch on the genes, to synthesize the proteins, to assemble the proteins, and that's not something that is done in the order of days or even a couple of weeks. You really do need to get into months before you see the full benefits of what that retinoid can do. Now when you start out, be sure to put a check-in date in your diary so you know where you're headed and when you're going to do that assessment. So you're at your 3 months review. Questions to ask yourself. Number 1, has my concern got better? So if it's breakouts and clogged pores, have they cleared? Probably not. Most of the time that takes 3 to 6 months to really make a big impact. Have my fine lines improved? Has my pigmentation got better? Is my skin more radiant? Now, if the answer to those questions is yes, then great. You are comfortable where you are and you are perfectly fine to stay on the same product. If the answer is no, your concerns haven't been fully addressed, the next question to ask yourself is, have I reached tolerance? Now, tolerance is that lovely place where the signs of starting to use a retinoid or retinization have completely settled. You're very rarely dry, your skin is comfortable, your barrier is happy, and you're not experiencing those dry, flaky patches that are so common in the first few weeks. Now, if you've struggled to build up to daily use, you might well not be tolerant. And I really do think you want to have used your retinoid for a cumulative period of 3 months. So if you've been doing it every other day and haven't been able to increase the frequency, you'll probably want to do it for as long as 4 to 6 months to get the correct dose of retinoid on your skin to be able to assess the benefits. So the period of time you use it before stepping up will increase. So tips for those who aren't tolerant on their given retinoid is, go and watch that video I've done on retinoid tips for improving your ability to use them at the beginning. I've done a video recently on that, 5 different hacks that I find indispensable in my practice, including things like buffering, so important, but also things like pre-treatment with niacinamide. I think that's such a useful way to prepare skin for retinization. It may even limit the amount of retinization you experience because you're bolstering your skin barrier's function with niacinamide because you boost ceramide production. So there's all sorts of things you can do to improve your ability to get tolerant. And I wouldn't rest until I'd used that retinoid for at least 6 weeks, ideally daily, before even thinking about increasing the strength further. So we're clear on this, yes? So the time to think about increasing the strength is 1, we haven't reached our target goals, and 2, we're tolerant to the product that we're currently on. Then it's time to turn the dial and increase the potency. Now, in terms of which product you use next, The easiest thing is to stay in the lane that you started. So if you started with retinol, increase the strength of retinol. If you started with retinol or retinaldehyde, the same thing, increase the strength of that. If you started with gram-active retinoid, ditto. So oftentimes a good retinol starting strength is around 0.3%. Time to go to 0.5. With retinaldehyde, there tends to be less flexibility. There are fewer strengths available, and it's not uncommon to start at around 0.05, and then you might think about increasing to 0.1%. If you started using gram-active retinoid at 2% typically, then try increasing to 5%. Now, things to be aware of: when you ascend the retinoid ladder, you are likely to re-experience some degree of retinization. That's quite common. You may even experience a bit of purging if you're suffering from acne. Again, it can en route more garbage under the surface and push it through, and that can cause another little ripple with more breakouts. It's really key where possible to try to keep going, but again, do use your tools. Buffering, you can even dilute the retinol if you're really struggling, but try to keep the frequency of use up. If you need to, by all means, drop the frequency down. But at the end of the day, if you can move through it relatively quickly, keeping your skin exposed to your retinoid, but just maintaining your skin barrier function with the tips and tricks that we've now become well accustomed to using, it will go smoother and more quickly for you. Now, allow your skin a few weeks to re-establish an equilibrium. Try not to make any other changes in your skincare routine. Give your retinoid your undivided attention. Now, this approach can be applied in repeated cycles until you either reach tolerance or you solve your problem. And I do this in the clinic all the time. So we introduce a product, often in prescription space. We adapt to it. We go through retinization, but minimizing it with buffering, dilution, less frequent application, and then we push until we get to a daily comfortable habit. Then we decide, have we reached our goals? Have we not? If we haven't, turn the dial, go up a strength, often starting with something like Differin or Adapalene on prescription, going up to 0.025% tretinoin, and then going up the strengths of tretinoin until we either solve the problem or reach tolerance, and then we sit tight with that. Then it's a great time to think about building in other actives. But I think if you want to do things slowly, cautiously, and really understand the benefits coming from your retinoid, this is the best way by far to see what it's really doing for your skin. Then a final note is to remember this is the work of a lifetime for your skin, right? So there is no rush. This is something to be taken slowly, steadily, putting in place great foundations of beautiful skin and doing it in a way that isn't jarring and doesn't leave you endlessly dry and flaky so that you can't put your makeup on or feel comfortable leaving the house. If those things are happening on a repeated basis, you need to slow things down, and do check out my other videos on how to manage the side effects of using a retinoid in the beginning. They are so worth getting through, and I really want you to have all the tools in your toolkit to get you through the first few months. So lots of retinoid content for you guys recently. It does always seem to be such a popular topic on this channel, but if there's anything I've missed, tell me in the comments down below. Hope you enjoy this one, guys, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.